This is Sybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map Infinity Isle, and as the Red Allies, it is none other than Bob Johnny, aka C9q9md, and as the Purple Soviets on the right side, it is none other than B-Front, who is also known as 4Del, who is from some team somewhere. I'm actually not sure what team exactly, however, it is going to be Dogs, and I'm assuming Bear, but Engineer first, actually, and then Bear's out of the second barracks for our 4Del player going for that reactor and those walls, and tons of Bears will face off versus only a couple of Dogs, and then going for just that single racks, following it up, of course, with those dual refineries, and oh man, Game Spy going to be shutting down in whenever it exactly is that it's shutting down. And look at that on Magikarp, requested to be put on your friends list. So everyone go ahead and accept that if you did in fact get that message at the same time as me. However, it is going to be tons of Dogs, tons of Bears, and also conscripts, so really heavy infantry from both of these players. Not super heavy from C9, but hey, you know what? C9 is a player that just does absolutely whatever he wants, and he doesn't really care what is actually going to be happening in the game. He just builds something crazy, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Going for that airfield before expand, and the conscripts and Bears definitely moving in a very aggressive position, and they're going to be rushing in here. The concave is great out of C9. Will he be able to do the damage that he needs and get the barks off that he needs? The Bears being pulled off, and it is going to be Dogs not getting any real barks off, and actually a lot of stuff getting locked down from C9. He may need to bring his MCV into the fray to try and deal with this mass infantry. The Dogs going to be getting cleaned up, and the Bear even getting an extra couple of kills there, and suddenly C9 completely crumbling. Where's the MCV? It is right there just chilling, and there's tons of conscripts switching over to those Molotov cocktails. No, that is a bad mistake. They need to actually be moving in here and making sure that they deal with these peacekeepers there. They're actually going to be using their Molotov cocktails to do that, but the tier 2 is out, and where's the MCV? It's still just sitting there, so these conscripts will now be completely cleaned up. C9 really doesn't have a whole lot to deal with once he gets his micro under control, and not if he lets that Peacekeeper fall, but he does sell off that, or lose that airfield for an additional Peacekeeper. He does lose his Peacekeeper down there, however, with dual Cryocopter, he should be able to hold this off while the Soviet going to be expanding, getting out Bullfrogs, and setting up that third base. Absolutely no problems there. Cryocopter's not doing a good job of splitting them up and freezing multiple targets right there. He will be freezing multiple targets, needs to make sure that he's rotating those Cryocopters and freezing as much stuff as possible. So suddenly, with the conscripts, he was able to do quite a bit of damage for Del, and not too bad of a position, especially since he's macroing on the back of it. He's getting out his expansion, going for his fourth base, and he will most likely be able to take that fourth base relatively unopposed from C9. He's put so much pressure on C9, and with 4 Bullfrogs, he should be able to hold off the Cryocopters, and it's going to be another, what, 20-30 seconds? Oh no, he's going for expand before airfield, so C9 really has nothing. And on the top of that, like I said, 4Del, wait a second, where is his MCV? Oh no. Oh, right, okay, it's right over here. Was a little bit in a weird position. Looking for it on the minimap didn't help. However, a couple conscripts going to be getting cleaned up, and C9 just needs to kind of hold here while he gets his feet under him and gets his feet back on the ground, all of that stuff, while 4Del is going to be able to take his fourth completely unopposed and immediately start that super reactor. He wants hammer tanks, he wants twin blades, but also MiGs to help him control the skies. And the Dog, a good move by C9, just getting that scouting information is very important, but 4Del has such an incredible lead. Look at that, the third base just now going down, that third ore node finally going down, the airfield being rebuilt. C9 is way behind. He's definitely got an uphill battle, but it will ultimately come down to the control from both of these players. Look at that, throwing down the flak cannon just so he doesn't have to run these Bullfrogs all over the place. He does have one out on the water, so he's relatively well protected. Those flak cannons are quite tough, and they will take quite a few Cryocopters to freeze them down effectively. However, no going naval yard, actually, which means he wants to go for that water harassment. The naval yard going down for 4Del as well, so that is actually going to be good news for C9, because he may be able to freeze this down before anything comes out, which would essentially mean a free kill, and it should be sold off here in a matter of moments. No, the Cryocopters decide not to freeze. I think they want to try and freeze whatever comes out of there immediately, just so that the Riptide can lock it down as quickly as possible. And Bob Johnny throwing down a million beacons. Oh, he's actually got that barracks locked down. I'm not sure why it was barracks first. I think that was just to deny the scouting. However, it could have actually been a part of a larger plan by Fordell. And a second Riptide going to be joining the first, and a third as well. The Naval Yard does go down. That veterancy going to that Riptide. And it looks like it is going to be a Bear Scout for Fordell, but the fourth base is not up, and even a fifth base, but just because he's so far ahead. And oh no, the Bullfrog's not actually in position, but they are in enough of a position to scare away those cryocopters. And look at that, the ore collector has actually been unfrozen, so waking up from that cryogenic sleep, and the Terror Drone going to be out. A good call, because Terror Drones, if you've got the micro, if you have the micro, they can do so much damage. It is actually ridiculous and actually a little bit absurd, and which is why a lot of Empire, a lot of Allied players absolutely hate Terror Drones. Even when I'm playing Soviets, I hate Terror Drones, just because if I'm going up against a player that's better than me and they've got that control, you can just lock down unit after unit after unit with a single Terror Drone, and basically just, you know, hotkey your attacking units to one number and your Terror Drone to another, and then just spam between the two of them, lock stuff down, destroy it, and depending on how many units your opponent has, it can work really well. So there's a crash course on basic Terror Drone usage. However, a couple of hammer tanks going to be getting shrunk down, not frozen down, which of course shrinking stuff down is always very beneficial right before an engagement, because if it's possible, oh, you have an aircraft carrier, if it's possible, then you can shrink them down and they'll immediately keep running into battle. The Badger Bomber is here. Will he get an infantry kill? Yes, he will, but C9 going to be evacuating that Harvester, which is very important because he does not have very many Harvesters. He didn't lose the Harvester, which would be 1,000 credits more for C9 to replace that. But on top of that, he's losing all of this mining time. He doesn't want to lose it, but will the EMPs, and I'm assuming the aircraft as well, will they be strong enough? Dual aircraft carrier, so a good transition, but I have to say the blame is on Fordell. He hasn't engaged up to this point. He had a strong opener, and then he decided, hey, you know what's cool? Let's just macro up. Let C9 get back on his feet. You have to apply some pressure, and this splitting out of C9, he doesn't want any sort of AoE to take him down. Losing that oil derrick was a little bit of a misstep, although he couldn't really do anything about it. And oh, the bark will be completely ineffective. The dogs rushing in, crushing this army bit by bit. This is, of course, the danger of splitting your units up so much. Where are the EMPs? Are they going to land on these tanks? That definitely needs to be what happens. But everything from C9 is getting torn up, other than the dogs, which will get locked down by that cryo shot, and suddenly the hammer tanks should be able to just run over all of this stuff and do some massive damage. No, there's the massive EMPs with the cryocopters suddenly with great control, and dual aircraft carrier C9 has been able to do a massive amount of damage. Fordell waited way too long, and the base defenses are now out, which will allow C9 to survive a little bit longer, holding all of those units in position. The Riptide's moving in to deal with the infantry, while the cryocopters are nowhere to be seen to try and take down, oh, the Terror Drone inside of that aircraft carrier, and suddenly the aircraft carrier threat is not what it was. However, with that one aircraft carrier, I'm surprised he didn't go EMP missile again. He might be waiting for the cooldown. However, no, he did get it healed. I believe he used the concussion waves from those Dolphins to clean out that aircraft carrier. And look at this. This army out of Fordell is almost dead. Akula subs too little too late. With the hydrofoil, he can actually lock down one of those Akula subs and essentially indefinitely. You're going to need more than just those two, because with some EMPs, although that close together, it would EMP the aircraft carrier as well. And suddenly Fordell up against the ropes. He doesn't really have a whole lot to deal with this. He's tried desperately to make the Akula submarines work, but will it be enough? The tech advantage definitely goes to C9, and the economy advantage will suddenly be gone because of how many aircraft carriers that C9 has been able to get off. And this is one of the most important parts of that, is just simply that EMP missile locking down all four of those buildings, and even the ore collector, evening that ore collecting up to 3 and 3 for each player. So suddenly C9 with some great decision making, and actually an EMP locking down that Akula sub as well. Might as well go ahead and take it out while you can. and the engineer going to be desperately trying to save that super reactor. But what good is saving the super reactor if you can't actually take down that aircraft carrier? 3 Akula subs going to be moving in for 4del, while the Akula sub on the other side does get cleaned up. Is it going to be magnetic satellite, or rather Badger bombers more likely, trying to keep these waters clear, and won't actually catch anything. Might do a little bit of damage to that aircraft carrier, nearly going down. Might do a little bit of damage to that ore collector, but it's getting free repairs. So C9 transforming his position and utilizing the kind of the slow state, the very slow and passive state of 4del. He led really aggressive, but then after that, what was his follow-up? It was to let C9 get back on his feet, and C9 took a risk. He went for tech. He had no ground army except a couple of Riptides, infantry, and then the cryocopters were able to do the rest effectively. And actually, that black hole armor not going to be benefiting that poor Riptide all too much, but with the cryocopters being taken out for quite a while, going to be actually locking down a couple of his own units, but it doesn't matter all that much. He needs to be locking down this other Akula sub with that hydrofoil, making sure he's actually utilizing it on the unit that's firing at stuff. Needs to completely lock down one of those and just completely negate it from this fight, effectively wearing it out. And oh, the twin blades, too little too late, possibly. With the hydrofoils already here, 2 hydrofoils will be able to scare off these twin blades. The twin blades might be able to take down the hydrofoils just in a straight up battle, but the more damage these twin blades take, and with no crane on the land, nope, no crane in 4del's base. He has taken himself a 5th base, but losing his 4th will not be a good plan. Black hole armor just trying to increase the life of those units. And this absolutely needs to do damage, but with dual, man, oh no, just a single multi-gunner turret over here, dual over there. So C9 has got this base pretty well locked up. It's going to take a lot of twin blades to actually break it, and now he can just sort of hit away at the base of 4del, and taking out the super reactor will be a huge blow, locking it all down once again. The twin blades going to be rushing in. 6 of them will not be enough, not with those hydrofoils and that black hole armor. It just is not going to be happening. They need to make sure that they're not close to that super reactor when it does get destroyed, because that, of course, would be a huge detriment to the small army of 4del. And I'm not sure if 4del can really make a comeback from this. He's dropping down a Crusher Crane, which he absolutely does need. He does still have a chance, but with the well-balanced dietary army of C9, what can you really do? Even Apollo's showing up. So on top of that, just the anti-air is going to be out of control. They have been spotted by this oil derrick, but, I mean, Bullfrogs, what are you going to do versus something like assault destroyers, riptides, and aircraft carriers, especially with the hydrofoils providing support, and under the wing of protection of that assault destroyer, he just can't do anything about it. Oh, throwing away 2 Apollos, not a good move. Those are not very cheap. However, the aircraft carrier is desperately going to be trying to take out these Bullfrogs. They won't actually do a whole lot, and that is a fully veteran aircraft carrier. Yes, one of them is fully veteran in that heroic status. However, Twin Blade's going to be moving in, and how are they going to be able to deal with these? Yes, they will be able to completely clean those up, losing only 1 twin blade. Those multi-gunner turrets went down so quickly. This is something that needed to happen 5-10 minutes ago, and suddenly 4del is going to be making his strike back. He needs to take out the refineries, though, and oh, the Apollo's rushing in. Will we actually see the EMP missile lock down the Bullfrogs and make them effectively ineffective? Because once those Bullfrogs are locked down, the Apollos will have a heyday. And the slow picking apart by C9. So suddenly this game became a little bit one-sided, especially since there hasn't been a whole lot of damage output from 4del. He's trying to make just this mass twin blade work, because what can you really do? He was trying to exploit a weakness in the army of C9, but then C9 just patched that hole, and the server once again became secure, and that analogy was all over the place, and splitting his army into a couple of different components, and he will be able to completely lock down those twin blades. The Apollo's getting that elite status, and that will be it. B-Front has been defeated. 4del going down after a strong opener, not able to finish it out, and there was just no attack, no aggression in that mid-game. Yeah, lots of units from B front didn't actually work out, as the better control, well, not necessarily better control, but the better unit choice and better decision making overall of C9 led him to win that game from behind. And despite it saying that both of these players did lose, which is just a little bit of a bug, in 14 minutes, an exciting action-packed game. Other verbs, and that's not, those aren't verbs, kids. Don't take that. Oh, goodness. Now I'm completely off the rails. Why am I talking about adjectives and saying verbs instead? That's a resource graph if you would like to see it. As you can see, Fordell with his 4 and then 5 bases above C9 was able to dominate that money, but he wasn't able to make anything happen. This is Sybert signing out.